Krista Anderson is the founder and CEO of Healthy on the Go, but her story starts far from entrepreneurship. It starts with survival. After being diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and given just months to live, Krista made a decision that would change everything. She took control of her health using food as medicine to fight back. What began as a personal battle turned into a mission when she realized how broken access to healthy food truly was, especially in everyday places like gas stations and convenience stores. She went all in, selling everything she owned to build a company rooted in purpose, only to face setbacks, betrayal, and the kind of adversity most people never see. But she kept climbing. Today, Krista is not just building a business, she's building a movement around health, access, and resilience, proving that sometimes your greatest mountain becomes your life's work. Welcome to the next episode of What is Your Mountain? Good morning, Krista. How you doing today?
I'm fantastic. I love all your awards in the background. Looks like
Oh,
you've
thank you.
climbed some mountains.
Yes. I've climbed some physical mountains, and welcome to the What is Your Mountain podcast. Appreciate your time today.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you
Excellent.
for having me.
Absolutely. So let's jump right into it, Krista. When you were given 3 months to live in 2009, what was the first thought that went through your head, and how did this change the way that you were going to approach life from then on?
Obviously, anybody diagnosed with cancer, it's a complete shock, right? And I was in a lot of disbelief. I think we go through life feeling like we're invincible and that everyone, you hear stories of people being diagnosed with cancer, but it's not anything you think would hit home. And I was quite shocked about it. But at that time, I had a good team of doctors around me that I was able to get the right information. And I just started to fight for my life. I never once thought I'm going to die. And I think that's exactly what it gives you the power to go through a journey like that is having belief that you're going to be healed. And there's a power I think that we carry within us in our mind is very powerful. It directs our body. So I think that's really what helped me in that beginning diagnosis of it. And learned a lot about the healthy lifestyle. And I think, the stage 4 cancer diagnosis, they gave me 3 months to live. And when you hear that, you think, what can I do to fight this? And you really leave the rest up to God. So that's kind of the journey I started out on is
Yeah.
that path of what can I do?
Yeah. My wife is also a cancer survivor, and one of our other guests on What is Your Mountain, Brian Staff, also has battled cancer. And, I feel like the common theme is faith,
Mm,
and also to be an advocate for yourself.
yeah.
And it seems to be, something that comes across every time I speak to folks that have fought this battle.
Absolutely. And I think you have to be your own doctor in a way, doing your own research, finding the best facilities and physicians in the country for that specific situation. And not just to go to your typical doctor you see and trust their opinion and trust their recommendations. So you're right.
Yeah. And you started that really during your treatment during chemotherapy. You really started to treat food as part of your medicine. How did that happen? How did that relationship change from just need to eat to I'm going to use this to save myself?
Yeah. So friend of mine recommended a holistic doctor, and I went to him and I stayed with him for about 3 months before I did any modern medical treatment, chemotherapy, and learned a ton about nutrition and that I needed to really focus on a plant based diet. And I think being healthy is not rocket science. It's how, they lived at the beginning of time is off the land. And I think everything in moderation. There's nothing to overthink about that. I think what's been created is this influx of processed foods when women started going into the workforce back in the 50s. So, I realized I had been eating a lot of processed foods, a lot of sugar and too much. And so I started to eliminate all of that from my diet, and I'll be honest, it was really hard in the beginning. I think for most people it would be. I didn't know how to cook in a healthy way, and this doctor gave me a lot of recipes, and a lot of what I gleaned from him was more of this Ayurvedic kind of Indian lifestyle in a way of just real plant-based, real food. And so I started to implement that and I have lived the same way ever since. And I love it. I couldn't imagine going back to where I was. So
Yeah. I recently read as I was preparing for the today's podcast, I was reading some statistics, and one of the ones that I read that jumped out at me by the CDC recently was 80% of heart disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes are actually preventable.
mm,
And one of the areas that it cites is our diet. That poor diet is now the leading cause of death in the United States. So this is really something that we should be paying attention to.
you're absolutely right.
Mm,
And we've created a lifestyle within the US and our food system that supports this on the go, fast paced work, work, work. And that's packaged food products. And
mm.
that's where we're running into this issue. So you're absolutely right. It's crazy because it used to be heart disease, cancer, and now we're up against, a very broken healthcare system or a food system.
Yeah, for sure. So that leads me to, concurrent. There's a lot of folks at this firm that are on the go. I'll be in the airport in about 12 hours, on the go as usual. And one of the challenges that we have when you are on the go is finding healthy food. So tell me about the story where you walked into a gas station and you just this idea came to your mind.
I was visiting family in Wisconsin and we were, driving from one place to the other quite far and we stopped at a gas station and I would thought, okay, I'm going to, grab something to drink, maybe a snack as well. And this had happened many times in my journey through cancer and this was when I was on the other side of cancer. And I walked in and I looked around and I thought there's nothing in here I can eat because I have to protect my health after what I've been through, and maybe a bottle of water, a bag of almonds, but even those had oils and overloaded with salt. And so I thought, why is there never anything healthy in a gas station? And so that's where this idea began of why don't we have a healthy snack section, healthy beverage section of functional foods and beverages in a gas station to help people stay healthy when they're on the go?
Yeah, and just because it says something that looks like it's healthy doesn't mean it's healthy, correct?
Yeah, we call that greenwashing.
Okay.
Packaging, you have to read through the lines of some of that stuff.
Mhm.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah,
really challenging to be ahead of that when you're especially when you don't have much time. You're trying to get in and out or like you said, you're traveling to the airport.
yeah, absolutely. And we'll probably talk a little bit more about this later on in the podcast. But I think, and I'm curious if you think this also helped with your recovery. But you made a decision, you sold everything, you moved into a 500 square foot, space, and then you started to build healthy on the go. What's the what's the leap of faith that drives that decision?
I so to when I first had this idea, I went to a trade show in the industry to meet people, to ask
Mm,
questions, to get as much information as I could to see, is this a viable idea? And I spoke with this gentleman who's the head of one of the top brokerage companies in the food industry. And presented my idea to him, and he said, Krista, we tried selling healthy food in a gas station and it didn't work. And so it knocked the wind out of my sails, and he advised not to go for it. I flew back home and I sat and thought about it for a couple of days.
mm,
And I felt like I couldn't give up on the people of the US after what I had been through, feeling like I lost a kidney, I lost my right lung to this broken food system
yeah,
in a big way. And I was frustrated by it. And I thought, how did they market this? How did they tell people there was healthy food in these gas stations they were trying to put these products into? And so it was this passion inside of me to fight for America's health, for my health, to make this change that was like, I'll do anything it takes. And there's been a lot of hard moments through that and selling everything you own, but your car and, some clothing and,
Yeah.
it was all in, and that money is what started the company. I'd never took an investment dollar to get it going.
That's incredible. Yeah, I mean, the food, I've never gone against the food industry, but obviously being in the investment business, we follow the markets and the economics. What drives the country and capitalism is profit. And if you're trying to sell something and it's not creating profit, then these companies step away from it. But at the end of the day, like you said, that ultimately is a broken model. How have you kind of battled that? Because I'm assuming you continue to battle that.
The broken model,
Yeah.
absolutely. And, as I said, I've been talking a lot recently about this new mandate of the mass production of more glyphosate to feed the American people. And in the name of having enough food to feed a country is insane in a way because we're destroying our soil, we're destroying our land. Once you have chemicals in there, it's hard to get out, and we're killing our own people. And I hate to say it so abruptly, but
Sure.
it's almost like a genocide in the decision making process of what's going on in a political environment. And at times it feels impossible to fight this when our decision makers are against it. It's all for a profit. It's a protection of these bigger companies.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just bringing awareness to people, and that's what we're trying to do, and make a small change with vetting the products that we sell to make sure they're actually healthy, that there's no glyphosate used in the production of them, and making them more accessible to people is
Yeah.
trying to kind of go against the machine.
Yeah, absolutely. Any recommendations on and I would like to focus on the name of the company, On the Go, because like I said, a lot of folks that are going to be listening to this podcast are constantly on the go. How do we look besides looking for your setup in some of the airports and healthy on the go stands? How do we kind of fight this and be able to read the labels properly? Where do we start?
I think one of the greatest things, if you think about it, we have the power, and we have the power with our purchasing. What we buy votes for good, bad, the profits of which companies we want to succeed and which ones we don't want to succeed. And I think knowing that information is what companies are being transparent and, producing products that are good for us, and they care. Their heartbeat is the same as us. And there's a lot of them out there. And I think when you look at, I hate to use this example, but it's true. When you think about the French Revolution, they overthrew their government, and they had the power. The people had the power. And we do. And it's what we spend our money on. And I think it's really realizing that as a collective, we can change this. We can suck these companies dry that are trying to toxic, bring the toxins into our health.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great message. The journey on the business side for sure hasn't been smooth, right? You've had some setbacks in building the business, and maybe I've read about some betrayal that you had in building the business. What was the low point? And did you ever get to a stage where you thought, I just can't do this?
I did. I did. And actually makes me want to cry a bit when I talk about this because I did throw in the towel at one point, and it was a hard decision. But we had a distribution partner that basically went and took all of our merchandising displays that you see out. They just wiped us out completely. We were in about 12 states. Michelle Obama just nominated Healthy on the Go for Catalysts for Change for America's Health. And we were really, climbing and succeeding with it. And this partner decided, they wanted to make more money. And they, went to the retailers offering them a better program than ours. And they took our displays and put their own signs on it. And so I didn't have enough money to really fight this. It was a breach of contract. And so I lost my whole company overnight within a couple of months and after 4 years of building it. And I hit rock bottom and I decided I need to take a break because if you're building at the end of the day, if you're building something in sacrificing your own health and your own personal time and life and family, it's not worth it if you know you can lose it. We can all lose our jobs tomorrow, and what was it worth? And so that's really the point where I thought, "Okay, what am I doing with my life? I'm trying to make a difference, but first I need to make sure I'm balanced." And that was a wake-up call for me.
Yeah. Um, Looking back during those times, is there one choice that you think you would do differently next time, or if this was to occur again?
Absolutely. I would diversify the channels of business and
Uh,
distribution partnerships and not just all eggs in one basket. That
yeah.
was stupid on my part, but we were also in the beginning stages of growing and nurturing that relationship.
Our audience is going to be a lot of folks in the investment business, so that was a commercial for diversification.
Love that.
Excellent. Your mission isn't just to grow the business; it's also about equity and prevention. How do you balance the two?
Our message is creating a path
Mm,
to disease prevention. And I think it goes hand in hand. Every time we have a sales meeting to introduce this program to retail partners, we're handing them the baton. We're asking them to join us in changing the health of America.
mm,
And that's through access. And so that story, it is it all goes hand in hand from, the purpose to the growth of the business. It is one and the same. And I think that is why we have been successful, and it's a heartfelt mission. It's for me, it's not about money. It's the fact that I could be dead, and I just wish I could have done things different, but if I can help others, that means more to me.
yeah. You have mentioned a couple times in the U.S. I had shared some statistics before, and I don't know if I said this, so I just want to make sure I clarify that all those statistics that I talked about were from the U.S. Um, do other countries have this right?
I would say more than the US, absolutely. As you know, I live in Europe, and
Yep.
the French lifestyle where, in France where I live, they have such an emphasis on eating real food and getting it from their local farmers that are producing or in an organic way without an organic certification is just how they've always done things.
Yeah,
When it comes to on the go and snacking, and I would say on a snack perspective, it's probably not the healthiest. There's an opportunity there for expansion that we're aware of with healthy on the go. But from a fresh food standpoint, you can get pretty good options in a train station and an airport. It's always been a way of living here before processed food, and it
yeah.
continues to stay that way, I think.
Yeah. My daughter, Emma, is actually studying abroad in Florence right now, and
Oh,
she's already
amazing.
kind of shared some of those insights to us as well. I think it's twofold, and I'm thinking about prevention, because you know, 15 years ago, I myself also had some serious, health issues, and a lot of it was because of my lifestyle. I wasn't active. I had none of those medals that are behind there. So those have all been earned over the last 15 years, and again focused on prevention. Besides healthy eating, what else do you do to kind of prevent disease and to stay healthy?
Stress is a big one, right?
Yep.
What do they say? 99% of disease comes from, wow,
Mm.
a lot of
Yeah.
it comes from stress, right?
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to, you and I talked about this offline is in the US, we're the society that we've been part of our whole life, you grow up in is about, you know, c- producing the dollar
Yeah.
and working all the time and climbing that ladder, chasing the American dream. And I think we get stuck in that. And at a loss of taking care of ourselves. And the one thing that if I could impart anything to people that are most of your community, they're busy traveling a lot, working a lot, is when I left US and moved to France, it felt like I was leaving my whole career behind. But what I realized is it was a letting go of striving to succeed that my business started to grow more. And my quality of work and time, I didn't work as much. I don't work as much as I did when I was in the US, but because I'm balanced in my personal life, like, you're an athlete, you probably take time out quite often, maybe during the week to work out and so I'm out cycling during my lunch break and then I come back to work and I not everybody has that luxury, but I think, it's knowing within your schedule is what can you do to seek that balance and take a time out because it makes you better at your career, makes you better at your job, and family is more important as well. So I think
Mm,
that's one of the
mm.
great lessons that I've learned is that's where growth really is.
Yeah. I think that's a powerful message. There's a lot of great messages in our discussion, but sometimes less is actually more.
Yep,
Uh, and if you balance your life and like you just had mentioned too, friendships, family, and somehow that also fuels our success. It's not just how many hours you work.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
That one of the purposes of this podcast is to highlight stories like this because you'll notice on the What Is Your Mountain podcast that we don't have any business success stories, right? But somehow everyone on this podcast has been very successful. So I think that's a good formula to listen to and use for success. Um, is there any since we're on this topic and we're speaking to a lot of people right now that probably work 12 hours a day,
Mhm.
where do you start? How do you start to bring in healthy food, activity? What would be your recommendation for someone who maybe is sitting at a desk all day and not eating very well and working too many hours and very stressed? How do they start?
I think it's not this is not an easy start, but for a lot of us is obviously closing down technology, take a second and just sit with yourself. What do you enjoy doing? What makes you come alive? Where are your talents outside of work? And it's not like, of course, fitness type activities are important. We need to be staying healthy in that way, but it's also what are like hobbies. Those are ways of de-stressing and staying balanced and community, our friends, scheduling in, you know, grab a drink with a friend or, go hiking with a friend, all these types of things. But it's sitting down and asking yourself, what do I wish I was doing that I'm not taking time for? And as all of us know, being connected to technology is such a detriment sometimes. And it's so important to just kind of separate yourself from that and turn it off and get it into nature but it's making the decision to do it. It's discipline. It's like people that want to lose weight and they're looking for the quick fix. There is
Yeah.
no overnight success. It's called
Mhm.
discipline. And
Yeah.
there's a journey and you just have to stay disciplined with it. But I encourage people try it and see if you schedule, a couple meetups with friends, a couple workouts in whatever form that is, in over a 2-week period, schedule that in a couple times a week and look at were you more productive in your work? Do you feel mentally more focused?
Yeah, absolutely.
How are you
I feel like
doing?
yes, I
How are you doing it? All those awards in the background, you gotta have some recipe of success.
I mean, you just said it. As I mentioned before, 15 years ago, there was zero, there was none. And it's taken years to get into a discipline, just like you said. But early this morning, I went for a run before our podcast, and I wish I could do it before and after, but I would do a better job every single day if I woke up and had an activity like that. because it just energizes me and gets me in a good state. Um, so everything that you just described is exactly how I did it. There is no magic bullet. There's no quick fix. It's just hard work and discipline.
I think sometimes too it helps is remembering the feeling you have afterwards that
Yeah,
can kind of get you started each time.
yeah,
And then
for
once
sure.
you get going, it's hard to slow down because you're like, "Oh, I need that." I
Yep.
need, you know?
Yeah, momentum is real.
Yeah.
Physics works in your favor.
Yeah.
um, where can we find Healthy on the Go?
We are in hospitals nationwide. We've got some universities nationwide, and then also airports. Of course, I think that's probably the easiest place for your community. Just look for my face on the sign, look for Healthy on the Go, and yeah.
When we were talking before we started, you had said you're in the Tampa airport, right? We have a lot of people that fly out of the Tampa airport. Where can we
Yeah.
find you there?
We are in CNBC in the Delta
Oh,
terminal and then
yeah.
Channel 8 News in the Southwest terminal.
Excellent.
Can't
Excellent.
miss us. So,
Yeah,
and I
for
want
sure.
everybody's selfies. Send me your selfie with me so
We
we can
will.
see
We
your
we
healthy travels.
we definitely will. So let's wrap up with what is the next mountain, whether it's personally or professionally.
Professionally, we have just launched a beverage program and vending. So, Healthy on the Go is entering those two spaces, of course, to reach more people, give access more to healthier functional beverages with our kombuchas, pressed juices, kind of detox type drinks, and then also vending that, in healthcare environments, things like that, where it's really needed when the cafeteria closes. I just want to share one quick story is, what we are up against with the beverage program is a big fight against Coke and Pepsi. And this goes back to your question, how can we help? How can we play a role? And the truth is, and I didn't know this till last year when we launched this program, that if you go to a hospital or Disney, for example, you're going to see all Coke at Disney because they have that contract, or you're in a hospital environment, you'll see Coke or Pepsi. And they're called pouring rights contracts, which creates an exclusivity that no other beverage can enter these environments. So, in essence, you have no access to anything healthy. I think we are safe to say
Yeah,
because of those contracts. So, they should be illegal, and we are trying to fight against that. It is a big machine, but we want to bring awareness that this is going on because the less we purchase those products, the more powerful that we can make that change. So that's the big mountain we're climbing right now, and we're hoping to make some strides with it.
excellent. Well, Krista, this has been fantastic. Thank you for your time this morning, and we appreciate all the great feedback and tips.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Joe.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
Krista.
All right.
As we wrap up today's conversation with Krista Anderson, what stands out is not just the mountain she climbed, but how she chose to climb it. With belief when the odds said otherwise, discipline when it wasn't easy, and a mission that's bigger than herself. From fighting stage 4 cancer by taking control of her health to challenging a broken food system and rebuilding after losing her business almost overnight. Krista reminded us that resilience isn't about avoiding setbacks, it's about how you respond to them. Her message is clear. We have more control than we think, whether it's through what we put into our bodies, how we spend our time, or even how we spend our money. Balance, discipline, and purpose aren't just ideas, they're decisions made daily. And as she continues to take on industries much larger than herself to bring healthier options to people on the go, her story is a powerful reminder that your mountain can become your mission if you're willing to keep climbing. Keep climbing, Concurrent.